It's great to see you all here. I know we're going to have people coming in, but we're just going to keep moving. So I'm Michael Montesino. I've worn almost every hat at UNT, from being a professor in the math department to graduate dean to dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, vice president. Last year I went off because I was intrigued by exactly the sort of reason that you're here today, about using data to make changes at organizations. And in particular, I was interested in helping U.S. research universities. So I spent a year as president of academic analytics, doing a lot of very cool things with data sets that we were harvesting to try to understand trends in U.S. higher education. I decided I just missed you guys. I miss my faculty colleagues, and I miss students. So right now I have a foot in both worlds, and the opportunity to work with Nancy Hong for events like this. Nancy and I started the Innovation Greenhouse, how many years ago now, Nancy?
January 2013.
Okay. And we're really getting a lot of activities going. Several of you I know have participated in hackathons before. This is much different and it's much bigger. So there's a lot of great opportunities. And our guest speaker is going to talk about most. I'm not going to steal too much of her thunder. So you all know, part of the reason here is data's getting big. So what's that mean? So I had a startup in early 2000 in the data mining era. And at that point, everybody's saying, our data sets are getting huge, our computational power is increasing exponentially. Lots of talk about lots of data, horsepower, now to analyze it. Well, we have the same thing happening again. Lots of talk about exponentially increasing horsepower to analyze data, cheap storage, large data sets. What's different? The real difference now is the acceleration in computing power and in the data being gathered. But more importantly, unlike before, is you guys and me, we're generating most of the data that's going into the big data sets. So before, if I made a transaction, if I worked with a business, there was a middle person there entering that data. Now all that data is being harvested directly from your actions. So what's really changed in this era is our data is feeding the systems in a way that it wasn't before, is that we're causing the action that's putting that data in. And that's a fundamental change. And that's why these data sets are so huge, is because we do a lot of things every day. We drive to Dallas, we shop, we book a hotel, an airline ticket. We're doing a ton of stuff every day. The challenge is integrating all that data and making some sense out of it. So what hasn't changed from 2000, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, is data is just data. It's people, it's smarts that turn that data into insights. So part of what you're going to be doing in this challenge is taking these huge data sets that are being provided to you and turning it into insights. You guys are going to be creating the next business that says this data can be monetized in this way. And so that is also a fundamental change, is data has become democratized and it's being used by a lot of smart people. Now, I'm biased. I will absolutely admit this. I love data. I love statistical analytics, but it is one of the sexiest jobs out there right now. It is in high demand because we all know, and we're feeling that the data that's being generated out there can be used. Can be used in a way that it couldn't be before. It can help predict decisions, can help predict, and that's the big change, is help predict, not just describe, help predict to better service companies, to serve you, to serve government, in lots of different ways. Now the promise is it serves us. And it doesn't just serve companies, it doesn't just serve our government, it serves us. So that's the promise out there. Companies are paying big money for data scientists right now. And why? Because there aren't enough smart people out there with experience and the know-how to turn data into insights. So it is an incredible growth field right now and great opportunities. So, talk a little bit about the opportunity you have. So if any of you have read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, there's kind of some real take-home points there. So first is you got to be smart enough to be successful. all of you have demonstrated you're smart enough. You're in college. You got to work hard enough. Okay, so that's the thing that's going to separate everybody with a college degree. Are you going to work hard enough? And then the next piece is, do you have a network that's going to allow you to transform your smarts and your hard work into something productive? That network can only be gotten by having experiences, meeting people like Tony, working on a data challenge like this. The building the network is so incredibly important now. That's what separates you out. So the college civ, smart enough. Doing things like this, doing well in your classes, that's the working hard part. You got to get that network. And the only way you build a network of experiences and people who are going to support you is doing events like this. So congratulations for being here, because you're going to make it all three. You're hitting all three of those things you need to do. Now, Tony Portman is an amazing CEO. Lots of experiences, many different companies from IBM. Just blanked. So now what she has experience doing is taking a company from point A and point B with a nice hockey stick curve. Now the other thing is, and this is what impressed me most when I met Tony over the summer, is she really cares. She cares about education, higher education, about students, and it's not just so she can generate her next employees. She really cares about everything that supports business, supports our economy, supports our culture. And that caring comes across. She's taken time off from work, CEO of a growing, busy company, sit here and talk to you. And she put her team on creating a huge data set and allowing you access to it. So that takes a special sort of character. So with that, Tony, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, a little about DHISCO, and then the challenge and the opportunities for everybody.
Cool. Thank you so much. He is good. He is good. Well, I've got to tell you that the origination of this sort of idea came from Miss Nancy here. I was really looking for exactly what Dr. Montesino said, which is we need some interns, we need some brains, we need some smarts to tackle some investigation of, and when I say the word business intelligence, I bet if I ask each of you, you'd each have a very different explanation or description of what that really meant. Data mining, very different descriptions. Data intelligence, data science, really different meanings. And what we knew was that we had 9.4 billion transactions running through our company every month, and we didn't know what we had or didn't have or what it meant. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of a history lesson about DHISCO, because it's brand new. We're a 26-year-old startup behaving like we're a new technology company in Silicon Valley. And I've got to thank Nancy, I've got to thank Dr. Cobbs, and I've really got to thank everybody on the entire team, because this is an experience for all of us. This is new for us. I'm sure we're going to learn a lot as we go through it. And the opportunity for you is to not just data mine, but to understand how to create meaning out of that intelligence and to provide it in a business sense. So we're looking for cross-functional teams. Sometimes the data scientists get a little bit in the weeds and they can't bring it up and make it sizzle to executives or to clients. Sometimes the sizzle ends up winging it because they don't have the data, they don't have the expertise. I used to have a sign behind my desk that said, "In God we trust, all others bring data," right? Because people would go, "Well, just trust me," and I'd go, I don't think so. So I want to challenge you to roll up your sleeves, get off the sidelines and get in the game, and play a little bit in this sandbox that UNT is providing for you with DHISCO. We've got kind of a couple of objectives here. One is, very importantly, to give you the opportunity to showcase what you know and what you do in front of real executives. Not just my C-suite team, but also we've got executives committed from very big hoteliers to be the judges in some of the work that you put through. And when we were trying to talk about what this is, we said, gosh, this is like hackathon meets Shark Tank or something like that. So this is really an opportunity to innovate. And then we expect to learn something. We know that we don't know what we don't know. And your insight's going to be interesting regardless of what it is. This is a little picture about who we are, but I think it's important that I give you that landscape so that you can understand when you see this data set, what it sort of represents. And I'll go forward and then I'll come back. Believe it or not, 26 years ago, this company got formed, and it was called DHISCO, the Hotel Internet Switch Company. Truly creative, right? DHISCO. So when we named it last November, we said, well, DHISCO goes disco. And it went through a whole iteration of going public, going private, growing big, and then diversifying into 3 separate businesses. And we are the distribution business for DHISCO. The original idea came from a little guy in town, John Crandall. Anybody know that name here? Who was he? Anybody know? Sort of father of American Airlines, wasn't he? And he said at American, you know, somebody ought to do for the hotel industry what we've done for the airlines, which is we've got all those people out there booking an airline at a time. We ought to combine all those, have one major distribution system, a switch, and that switch would enable everybody to go into an hello Expedia, hello Kayak, hello Hotwire, hello Trivago. One place, get all the rates and availability for those seats, be able to push a button, and then book that reservation. And so he got together 4 hotels. They were usual household names. It was Marriott, Choice, Intercontinental Hotel, Best Western Hyatt. Put them all in a room and said, why don't you guys go figure this out? So it started as a consortium way back there. It started as a group of those hotels, and they were sitting around and thinking about how they could create synergies. They all contributed information, they all contributed technology, and then they created a company out of it. 26 years later, here we are. So what you're going to have the opportunity to look at is exactly what you do when you book a hotel room. So we've gone mobile, everybody knows that, right? I now have the new Apple Watch early adapter, I'm just saying. But you can book a hotel room from this watch. Imagine that. You think about shopping. Well, you're shopping for a hotel room. And the transactions that you're going to see are shopping transactions and booking transactions that go through us. So they could come from a myriad of places, a request for rates, availability, amenities, and then it comes out to a myriad of hoteliers. Then that request gets served back and you make choices, don't you? You go search, you go look. Every one of those searches and clicks creates what we call a shopping transaction. And to get your brain around the magnitude of what mobile has done to the internet for hoteliers, the average traveler looks for a hotel room 35 times before they book it. And, oh, by the way, they look 8 times in the 48 hours before they travel. That is ridiculous, isn't it? So now, I don't know who does that, but you do. And why do you do that? What's your motivation?
Last minute type of trip.
In fact, guess what? We've got lastminute.com as one of our clients because they're scooping up inventory that's not yet occupied and at a very nice wholesale rate, making that available last minute. Hotel Tonight. Anybody used Hotel Tonight? Hotel Tonight, you go into a geographical area, you say, I want a 3-star hotel, and you book a hotel, and you don't know what it is. You don't know if it's a Marriott, you don't know if it's a Hampton Suites. It's like Hotwire, isn't it? So they're scooping up that last minute inventory. So the reason that you're looking right at the end is we've got wallets to protect, right? So what's happened though, as you might imagine, is these hoteliers have what's called CRSs, Central Reservation Systems, just like the airlines had. Well, they were built to handle a look and a book. We call it looking and booking, look to book ratio. You look, then you book, right? Or you look at 2 or 3, but you don't, for heaven's sakes, look at 35. And then what's entered the market is robots and meta search. So now these meta searches are going out and scanning, serving up for you and me all these choices. And then there's even tertiary companies that are going out and searching the meta searches with robots that are saying, there is rate disparity. So you ought to be thinking about going here for, right, $2 or $3. And people make those choices. So just a little bit about us, 9.4 billion transactions a month last year. That's a lot. We've got about 110 online distributors. So all the online travel agents, tour operators, cruise operators, packaged operators that are directly connected. We've got about 65 different booking systems or those central reservation systems that are going through the switch. We do about 13 billion in annual bookings. So when you write that check or pay that credit card, we're booking about 13 billion in a hotel rooms with 300 hotel chains. That's a lot of transactions. So, history lesson is, here we are. We're now, DHISCO goes DISCO. We stand for, and this is where you come in, actually. Our new name is Distribution Hospitality Intelligent Systems Company. Right? Because anytime you do 9.4 billion of something a month, there's got to be a pony in that somewhere. So we want to be an intelligent systems company, and BI is one of our key core tenets and strategies, because if I can go back to a hotel and I can tell them about their comp set and what amenities seem to be attracting travelers, or if I can go to an online travel agent and say this supply seems to be booking way more their economy channel through a Hotwire, I think you ought to consider connecting. And because we connect one to many on both sides of that equation, all that traffic's flowing through us. So that's the value proposition. So now it's about you, your opportunity. You get to play with real data. Mike's right, I love education, and I love the fact that we've got to get real skill out of students that come through. And when I look around, you guys aren't just the guys that just got out of high school. So number one, I've got to say congratulations to you for furthering your education and pursuing your dreams about higher levels of opportunity to learn. The second is, I've got to say thank you for being here, because this tells me you're the kind of guys and gals that we'd want to look at and hire and have in our company. I will tell you, participation in things like this matter on a resume. They matter big time. And then for you to have the opportunity to be in front of, and you know, they're not all confirmed, but I will tell you, I think that for sure, we've got the CEO of Sabre. One of his EVPs was a professor here and is super excited about participating. Omni Hotels CIO is interested, so that's kind of fun. So you'll get to do that and be in front of really, really big players. And you'll also get to think. Sometimes when we sit in class, we get theory, and then we take tests, and we get mastery of what he knows, not necessarily how we synthesize what we know. So you're going to have the opportunity to work in cross-functional teams and think, which is one of the reasons that we put it together the way that we did. We don't want one data scientist going deep and just mining. We'd like to encourage, and in fact, the minimum team size is 3. Now, it could be 3 data scientists, and then you guys can just talk to each other. No, I'm kidding. But think creatively about not only the skill that you need to data mine, but what are the skills that you need to pitch it? What are the skills that you need to articulate the value prop? Maybe some return on investment skills, where somebody says, I see this pattern and I think this is how it could be monetized. So we're looking at all of those key critical areas of critical thinking, strategic analysis, marketing, insight, monetization. And then we're gonna give you some real money, some real prizes. So we won't disclose that completely because we wanna really see what generates out of this. And the cool thing is there are no boundaries and there are no expectations. So this is all about you having unlimited access to the data and being able to do with it a little or a lot, or a box or a square or a circle. So we'll have some nice, cool, fun little prizes on best analytics, best presentation, best use of tools. The university has been great. They've got some tools available, but guess what? We don't have all the tools in the network, but the internet does. There are so many open apps right now. Crowdsourcing is alive and real. And so have fun with using the tools that you know that we probably have never even heard of. And then just get curious and have fun. So each team member has to register individually. I always say flocks of geese fly in formation, but we're all responsible for our own landing. So we want everybody to register. Choose your team members, 3 to 5 I don't care. There's no limit on that. Get a fun name, that'll be fun. And then the Innovation Greenhouse has put up the registration website, and we'll make sure that you get all this, and that will be posted for a way to register. It'll have a little NDA. And a little caveat is, this is our data. We've redacted it because every client that we told that we were gonna do it, they're like, you're not giving them our customer data, are you? You're not giving them credit card. No, it's redacted, it's neutered, you won't be able to tell who it is or what it is. But it's our data, so you'll sign an NDA that says, yep. And then the ideas that you come up with, the collaborative team has a little bit of an NDA, which says, look, if we all as a team come up with something like that starts a new company, and we've seen that happen out of hackathons and out of Shark Tanks, if we come up with an idea, then that idea, as long as there's value added to it, is you guys' decision. Go figure it out. So we don't want any part of that. I know the school doesn't want any part of that, but that could be kind of fun. So you kind of hold each other harmless from a legal perspective about what happens next, and then you figure out what happens next from there. That's your job. So registration and NDA, and that's really important for us. And then we'll give you the access to the server and the data so that you can start to play. What is in that? So a little bit about the data. And this may change as we test through the full system and make sure of access, but you'll be given a URL. You'll go into that URL. You'll name your team and say, this is ours. You'll give yourselves a little password so that only you can get into your data set. And the data is going to be, so think about that transaction. It's going to be an HTML string, delimited HTML string, sorry marketing guys. And that string is going to have in it a request and a response. And those requests and those responses could be about a myriad of things. And we'll talk a little bit about what you should expect. So a request from somebody in the demand side. So demand are those online travel agents, those tour operators, those distributors. And then a response from the supply side, which is typically the hotel company itself or the property itself saying, here's what I have. A message ID you're going to find is attached to each response and each request, and those match. So that's how you find that data in that message response. And then the attributes are going to be in a delimited field, set of fields, and they're going to represent a whole bunch of different things. To give you some kinds of examples, you might have booking, right? That's pretty easy. You might have a modify request. So that's when you'd make a hotel room and then you say, no, I'm canceling. No, I'm changing. No, I have 2 kids and a pet, right? So a modify transaction, a cancel transaction. Multi-availability shop. You might be taking the kids. You might be looking for extended lengths of stay. You might be looking for a suite where you could have the opportunity to go work for a month somewhere. So multi-availability, responses from several different properties. So that would be our Expedias or our kayaks when they have a multiple opportunity, and then everybody returns back a bunch of responses. So you get a lot of those from multiple properties. A property search might be I'm looking for a property in a zip code. I'm looking for a property in a state. I'm looking for a property near an airport. So the attributes within search for a specific property. You might have availability shopping. I'm going to Paris and I want to see what's available in this marketplace, so show me everything that's available. That might be a request. And it'd be all the ones in that area, all the runs around the Louvre. Amenity information. This is fascinating. I was just talking, we're doing a study, which could be another cool project, on content attributes. There's about 200 different attributes of content. King size bed, queen size bed, do you want to quib? But there are 7 fields, and we could have a little quiz to say what are the most common 7 attribute fields. And what we're trying to correlate now is, if you don't have one of those fields filled and somebody does a search, the online travel agent won't present your property. So if you just haven't updated your content database with the amenities of your property, you don't get booked, right? So very, very important, that amenity search. That'll be interesting. Property information. So it might be, what's the address? What's it close to? So a request for, where is this thing? And then brand. Brand, there's economy, there's luxury, right? There's a certain brand that might be, ooh, I really like Embassy Suites, and so I like, those I like. I like their coffee and breakfast. Breakfast included, ooh, they have a good one. So those are the kinds of datas in the field that you'll be seeing, and there'll be a file for each of those transaction types. So that's the 9 terabytes of data that you get to play with. Your sandbox in it, when you log on, will have this document, the instructions, the data attributes. It'll have a little bit of a README, so you can go back and have reference about what's in that data set. It's going to have some reference docs, which will have some definitions, because some of this stuff is written in XML, so you kind of have to have some interpretation. And it's going to have some sample data. It'll just give you a smitten of what that all looks like. And then we recommend that you kind of play with your theory with your sample data before you go out and start pulling in and crunching everybody's system, including yours, with the big data. So a good way to do big data mining is to establish a business theory and then test that theory in your sample data and look for what that might look like if you went out and did the exercise on the entire data set. So that's my story. I am so excited that you took the time out of your schedule. I'm so impressed with the participation of University of North Texas and what they're providing for you all.